Hey, what is up, guys? It's me, the book Cook. Thus called because in some ways it could be described that I cuckold my material, physical form for the world of literature, for the transcendent world of books. In fact, it's gotten to such a point where I don't see my friends anymore, or my family, or my loved ones, because the only people that I love and the only people that I need to see are Harry, Ron, Hermione. In my dreams last night, I ran into a 12-year-old Draco Malfoy, and I took him by the 12-year-old scruff of his neck, and I took him to the bathroom that Moaning Myrtle lives in, and I put his stupid dumb head down the toilet and gave him like a swirly, and I said, "This is what you get. This is what you get for being bigoted." How would you like it if you had if you were born as with a non-wizarding mother? And from this conversation, actually, me and Draco Malfoy, I think I really got through to him. We sort of became friends, and through this conversation, by the end of my dream, he actually became a rehabilitated member of the Anti-Defamation League, protecting Jewish people from. I'm just gonna drop this joke. Now, something you may have noticed is that my setup this time is a lot less good than my last one. Not that my last one was particularly good, but this one is a lot more. These are actually bed sheets. Like, I can take it down. Oh, I'm gonna have to fucking put that back up again. The reason that this is the case is because I'm actually recording this at work. My mummy said that I needed to get a job and that I couldn't just read books all day in my bedroom while accumulating piles and piles of Snickers bars around me. And in protest of this, I actually ended up throwing multiple copies of Percy Jackson, the Lightning Thief, at her while shouting the title, "Lightning Thief! Lightning Thief!" Because of this, she actually kicked me out the house. So I actually sleep in the cleaning cupboard at my local Amazon warehouse. Jeff Bezos hasn't found me yet, but I think it's only a matter of time. Okay. Right, we're gonna get the book out now. Where did I put that fucking book? It's a big reveal, and I don't know where. Oh, it's there. 12 Rules for Life by Professor, Doctor, Psychiatric Therapist, Canadian, white, honorary Indian, mother to a nation, father to a nation, drug user and prescriber, drug enthusiast, Jordan B. Peterson. So far we have done an atheist book with Thus Spoke Zarathustra. Now we're doing an anti-SJW book, and next, in terms of passing internet intellectual trends, we'll actually be doing Das Kapital by ContraPoints. A little bit about the author. Jordan B. Peterson is a Canadian psychiatric professor that got big on the internet for owning the libs, owning some feminists, really like putting his fist into some feminists' anal hole, intellectually. Imagine the anus hole is the purview of acceptable ideas, and imagine his fist as the ideas. He kind of penetrated in there. He was in this funny interview with this woman who she was like very disingenuous of what he was saying. It became like a bit of a funny internet meme. Anyway, after that debate, after he became internet famous, he released this book, which is sort of a semi-sequel to his previous book, which is deals with the link between human psychology and myth and imagery and stuff like that, which I haven't read. And he became very like sort of famous online. Except he fell off a bit, like, somewhat recently, as in last year. He didn't show up at all, and that is because he got addicted to drugs. His wife got cancer, and he had to get on antidepressants or something along those lines. Which means everything he says in this book is just, like, totally bogus. The reason this book feels kind of dated to review is that despite only a year passing since his last couple public outings, because a year is so long in internet time, it basically feels like he's been gone an eternity. Let me just say, the world is completely different since Jordan Peterson was on the scene owning the libs. For Professor Jordan Peterson, it's a bit like Samurai Jack waking up in the world of Aku. He needs to go back to the past. Listen, the battle's already over. The libtards have won. Biden is in the White House. It's time for white men like you to stop thinking and go back to the Amazon warehouse to save up your pennies so you can buy an Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez Funko Pop and subscribe to her OnlyFans. Here's something to think about. politicians in the future will have OnlyFans, and you will vote for them, and you are going to like it. Listen here, white man. You're going to enjoy the OnlyFans of the Mexican lady. Honestly, the book's a bit of an oldie now, but possibly a goldie. Not really. I struggled with the book as so far as I didn't enjoy the way it was written. I feel like Jordan Peterson writes in the same way that he speaks, that being a long, rambling diatribe that your brain has to be going at ADHD speeds to actually keep up with. I just feel like it was in desperate need of an editor. There are great ideas in there. They are just like covered in like 5 paragraphs of fucking fluff. The book is a self-help book that sort of doubles as an analysis of like literature, religion, and there's a lot of anecdotes throughout the book as well. It's actually one of the most charming things I found about the book, the fact that every chapter of the 12 Rules for Life basically in some way links back to an anecdote that happened to Peterson during his time living in like Canada when he was a kid. It makes it easy to relate to him, I feel. The book's format is that it takes a basic bit of life advice and expands on it in such a way that it feels more logical and concrete in your mind. The thing about this advice is that it gets a lot of flack because it's essentially simple stuff. It's essentially like the sort of advice that you might have got off your dad. However, despite the book being basically basic advice, it became like super hyper popular. And a lot of people in intellectual circles, they sort of have a problem with how basic the advice is. But obviously it resonated with a lot of people. As it says on the cover, it's like a multi-million-dollar selling book or something along those lines. But if the advice is so basic, why did it resonate with that many people? I would say that is basically because we have, as Nietzsche said in the previous book, an entire population without a sort of reason to live and understand things. So I'd say our culture post-1960 has been extremely good at taking previous establishment concepts and tearing them down and basically pointing out the contradictions between the concepts. However, I do not think that our culture is very good at building alternatives for the people who make up the majority of the culture. The result of this is an entire generation of young men who have, like, their dads told them the basic ideas of, like, you know, hierarchy and stuff like that. However, intellectual circles, the people who dominate our culture, also tell them that these concepts are bad. So you have an entire generation of young men who are extremely anxious. They don't really know what to do. They don't know the reason to exist and stuff like that. And I say young men, and I do mean that, because one of the criticisms that Peterson gets quite often is that basically all of his audience are young white men. And people have pointed at that and said, oh, well, that's just because he is like a racist or whatever. But I think there's actually, I think maybe there's a different reason for that. And I think the reason for this is, although it might be quite edgy to say, I think that for other groups, the reasons that their life sucks can be blamed on basically the institutions made by the majority caste, which is like white males. So the majority productive caste, which is white males. And, you know, you have all these academics and they say to these people whose lives suck, they say, okay, right, your lives would be better if you tore down that previous system. And just the act of tearing down that system sort of gives you meaning. You know, you need a reason to go about doing things. You need a reason for why your life is the way it is. So, you know, them saying, okay, the reason your life sucks and the way you can make it better is by tearing down a system is like, okay, it's like, it sort of makes them feel like good about their existence. You need a reason to exist. But for young white men whose lives also suck, they're struggling, I think, with a sort of cognitive dissonance between the reality of their lives versus what intellectuals tell them. So the reality of their lives is that their lives are bad, but the intellectual class tells them that, no, it's not, it's the opposite. So there's like a disconnect there. It makes life very confusing because their whole intellectual class is telling them that they should be doing well, but they're not. It just kind of sucks to live that way. So when someone like Peterson comes along and gives them what they've been looking for, i.e. a worldview that is completely, it makes sense. So maybe the reason your life sucks is not because of the world, it's primarily because of you. And there's things you can do to change that, you know, it gives you meaning. I think it's no wonder that a lot of young white men have jumped onto the Peterson train, or did. I don't know if it's still going. That's my 2 cents on that. Sorry, I know that's not particularly funny. Here, we'll have a fart noise. One more thing that is possibly a little bit edgy as well is that according to the right-wing conspiracy peddling website, the Office of National Statistics, you can't keep getting away with it! The white population of the Western countries will be like a minority in like 50 years or something along those lines. And I think that one result of this is that it might happen that the people who previously got their life worth from tearing down institutions built by the majority class will suddenly come to a place where they're like, okay, they will experience the same disconnect that we have been experiencing. I think in some ways, when that disconnect comes and you have a, population of like what would be majority people at that time, struggling with existence, I think there will be room for another sort of Jordan Peterson-esque revolution. When people make fun of Jordan Peterson, and hey, there's a lot to make fun of. His man sounds like Kermit the Frog. Original joke. I think a lot of people give him flack, but I think the reasoning for his existence, giving out this basic advice that is logically sound, is so self-evident that anyone who doesn't see it as like a bit of a Neanderthal dummy poo-poo head. I realized that I haven't actually reviewed the book very much. I've just mostly talked about the phenomena of Jordan Peterson, and that is because everyone and their mum has reviewed this book, including PewDiePie. Watch the PewDiePie video if you want this book review. No, but seriously, I just wanted to give something original to the conversation, because it's a bit of an oldie. I know that he's releasing a new book later on, so I'll get on that. I'll get on that when it comes out. But until then, Black Jordan Peterson, he's coming. You better not be naughty. You better not be nice, because Black Jordan Peterson, he's looking at his list and he's checking it twice. There's a lot of parallels between the original Jesus, who was white, in this case Jordan Peterson, and the black reimagining of yeah, Jesus was white. Okay.